a pirate with an unexpected look, a beautiful sunset brawl, and a final boss worthy of a Sea of Thieves adventure are all coming up in this week's story from the Sea of Thieves. So when I first stumbled upon the lone solo slooper at the center of today's story, I saw only his backside, which indicated a roughness, covered in chains and back tattoos, with the glowing green of a pirate legend. It was easy to take this pirate seriously until I saw his face. This is Skullcrusher the Clown. Aside from his obviously clowny makeup, I'd say he's more pirate than clown, though there are definitely plenty of silly, foolish things about him, like the way he always plays peekaboo, or how he does silly rock rams as some intended physical humor. I must say I was a tad bit disappointed when his sloop, Titan, didn't have an additional 30 pirates tucked away on it. Historically, skeletons have always hated clowns. That's just a fact. Which is why Skullcrusher the Clown would be eliminating as many skellies as he could today, starting at the Sunken Grove. Skullcrusher loved taking down skeletons, but he also really loved his harpoon. I've never seen a pirate in one adventure use more harpoons. If he could cross the Sea of Thieves on just a harpoon, I think he would. He was a bit disappointed though when this perfect harpoon angle he had set up at the Sunken Grove wasn't one that he could walk on. He eventually took a different route to the skeletons, which went smoothly and resulted in this epic sunset duel with a shadow skeleton captain. He knew that if the sun set and this skeleton captain was alive, she would gain her full power. Skullcrusher didn't realize though that he also had special superpowers tucked within him, though by the end of this adventure, he'd be fully aware. With the Sunken Grove cleared of skellies, Skullcrusher the Clown went on his way to his next skeleton location, Old Faithful Isle, the worst island in the Sea of Thieves. The sail over was fine, but as he began to roll up sails, the storm began to roll into Old Faithful. This was helpful because it made the gold skeletons he had to fight in the first wave look like they were moving in slow motion. However, it was concerning to Skullcrusher because some of his clown makeup began to run and get in his eyes, leading to this swarm of skeletons creating a thunderdome around him. Skullcrusher went to the ferry, but upon return wiped the makeup out of his eyes and got down to business. Before heading to the port for the day, Skullcrusher wanted to go to one more island to clear 3 more skeleton captains. This time he'd have to sail east to Marauder's Arch. Having never gone there before, he wasn't sure if the winds on the travel would be any different, so instead of standing at the helm to drive the ship, he stood ready and alert by his sails. With no miraculous gusts of winds coming his way, he felt comfortable letting go of the sails and instead turning his attention to this action-packed sight at Black Sands Atoll. The 2 large red ocean crawlers were beating the heck out of a skeleton captain at the island, with the ammo crate in the center of them being the clear reason there was so much discourse. They all wanted it. Skullcrusher the Clown wanted to assert dominance over both groups by putting them all to rest and claiming that ammo crate for himself. Upon killing the skeleton captain, this gave him a treasure map with some buried treasure on it. He deeply hoped it would give him a storage crate. Now that he didn't already have enough storage crates, or plenty of supplies on his ship. In fact, he'd been collecting so much supplies while we'd been doing this, it was kind of scary. He loved supplies. Unfortunately, he dug up some relatively useless treasure, so he decided to bury it back in the sand to hopefully never be found again. Taking a piece of treasure that would make him a marked target? No thank you. Skullcrusher might be a clown, but he's not a fool. With a quick stop over at Marauder's Arch and a decimation of 3 more skeleton captains, now, word was starting to get around about Skullcrusher the Clown and how many skeleton captains he had taken down in the wilds. He was a menace to the skeleton's way of life. So, the skellies had to send some reinforcements. They wanted to send a clear message. Stop killing us. A skeleton galleon is what they sent. The final boss. The fight had gone on a while now, with lots of moments of back and forth, but this was a particularly scary moment. With Skullcrusher dead and his mast down, the galleon had Titan in their grasps. Further, a skeleton sloop was now in the fray as well after being called on as reinforcements. When Skullcrusher came back, he wasn't himself. He had shed the flesh and blood that weighed him down previously on the ferry of the dam, and returned a glowing green skeleton. He was still Skullcrusher, but he was now feeling as ferocious as ever. This was his final form. He got us masked up, did some quick reps, and got tightened out, pulling far ahead of the galleon, using speed and losing the galleon way behind him. This gave him time to quickly knock out the sloop and retrieve his winnings from it. Even though he had sped away and made it far out of danger from the skeleton galleon, he wanted to go back to really prove himself because he was still charged up and in his otherworldly green skeleton state. He was one with the skellies. He knew their every move. He knew what they were thinking. He had to take advantage of this. So he sailed back over to the galleon and gave them a piece of his mind. He was done clowning around. Pretty quickly after that, the galleon had sunk. Skullcrusher returned to his human form, completely physically and emotionally drained. He had a pile of loot he was now ready to sell that he had truly earned. With this gold, he hoped he could one day leave the seas and attend a formal clown college. In the meantime, though, I give you this piece of advice. Don't forget his name, because next time you're sailing the seas and you run into a camp of skeletons, or a skelly galley spawns right on you, I recommend looking the skeletons square in their open eye holes and telling them, you know Skullcrusher the Clown. See what happens.